Gary, hi, how are you?
Hello, lads. I'm very well, thank you.
So listen, I was too young for the George Graham era. I grew up in the Arsenal of Ian Wright and Dennis Bergkamp and Henry and Kraft. What is this Sam Allardyce, Tony Pulis nightmare I'm watching? Why is the Emirates cheering corners like they're goals? What is this?
It's amazing stuff. And when you're actually there, like watching it happen, as soon as that corner's conceded, the sheer panic in the opposition, the noise just reverberates around the stadium as if they know something's coming. And it is incredible. You're right. I grew up with that George Graham with Steve Bold flicking them on at the near post. It was pretty basic stuff. The winger flick it into cross it into near post. He'd flick it on and they'd attack the back post. But there seems to be utter chaos when Arsenal are attacking the corner now. And it's great to watch from like a kind of an attacking perspective. And obviously the Arsenal set piece coach is getting so much spotlight placed on him, but it is driving me mad in terms of how bad these teams are coping with it. In terms of, I think we need to start putting a spotlight on the defensive coaches and start naming and shaming them, the fact that they cannot deal with it.
Because I think it was striking, Gary, just watching the highlights of the other games last night, and it seems like it's becoming a bit of a thing now. Like even I was at Shamrock Rovers game in Vienna last week, and like Rapid were, with corners, they were sort of trying the tactic of everyone in on top of the keeper. And it's just like, football can become very faddish. Like something becomes a trend and it's like, now it's the Arsenal corner. And I'm seeing them everywhere at all levels of the game now. I'm guessing there's probably some overzealous schoolboy coaches in Dublin now are going to be this weekend. There's going to be corners with like everyone standing on a line. But I don't know, like, why are they difficult to defend? Can you put yourself into the mindset of the defending team and say, okay, why? Like, I mean, this option has been there for a long time. So why now is it flipped to this?
Well, the first thing to highlight is just the quality of the delivery in there is so good. It really is. But we see top class free takers and all that and do that. But Declan Rice, for someone who's 6'3", how they've discovered that he can actually take corners like that is beyond me, because you'd be normally having him attacking them and of course Saka on the other side. But everyone is saying that no team can cope. Yeah, I've seen Forest. They coped absolutely no problem with it. They didn't have any issue at all at the Emirates a couple of weeks ago. And what they did was they had a calmness about them. They just got themselves in their zones and they just focused where the ball was coming from. They didn't get sucked in by all the chaos, all the running, all the bumping around them. They just stood there and said, I'm going to attack this at its highest point. Now, I coached defensive set pieces for 2 seasons in League One in the Championship. So I know about the detail that goes into it. And that's why I'm finding it so difficult to understand why the defensive coaches are not solving this problem and why there's such panic. Because ultimately, I think the first thing you've got to do is create a little bit of calm within your defenders and say, listen, want the ball to come to you. And what we're seeing at the moment is that you can literally see it in their face, please don't come near me. Every team apart from Forest. So Nunes, as a goalkeeper himself, prior to being a manager, obviously has an understanding about balls coming in the box, and he's coached his team, or wherever he's coached his team so well, and they just dealt with it. And Arsenal didn't cause them any problems. So it's easily fixed, but why these coaches not getting it is beyond me.
It's becoming, as you say, self-fulfilling prophecy. The panic is palpable in the defensive players. Bruno Fernandes afterwards in his post-match interview, kind of shell-shocked, said, you can see in every situation, Saka, Martinelli, they go outside, they cross. They know if the cross is good, they can score. If it goes for a corner, they can score. It's like...
So you can see the opposition now think, oh, we're banging trouble here. And I remember, I said it to you guys before, do you remember when Rory Delap first came into the Premier League with Stoke? And rather than give away a throw-in, teams were giving away corners. They were scrambling back to kick it out for a corner rather than a throw-in because of the panic that was happening. But there are little nuances in terms of what they're doing. It's very clever. I said about the delivery, yeah, of course. But there's little things like they'll bump you under the ball. Like Timber, even last night, he just nudges Hoyland under the ball. He did it to Paquetá against West Ham. He just takes him under the ball. And it's all those little things. It's not a case, every player within that system, at that set piece, has a specific role to do prior to attacking that ball. Even when you see Declan Rice and Saka, they stop, they take a deep breath, they get their breathing patterns right, they stop everything down and they go, right, I'm in a good frame of mind now to take the corner. Whereas before in the old days, it was just put it down, put it in a box and players can just go and attack it. So credit to Arsenal. It is excellent what they're doing. But I tell you what, it is kind of papering over the cracks that they're not finding it that easy to open up teams. And I thought United in that first half, I know people would say, well, listen, they weren't much of an attacking threat, but their setup, I thought I was so impressed with them. I really was in terms of what he was trying to do. Arsenal really came out of the blocks, wanted to put them under pressure. And I genuinely thought going for that game, Joe and Dan, that Amorim had talked about it being a storm. I genuinely believed there was a potential that Arsenal were going to do to United what United did all those years ago in that 8-2 at Old Trafford when Arsenal turned up as a kind of wounded animal under Wenger and United put them to the sword. And I felt that United was so vulnerable last night. I felt Arsenal in a really good place with Odegaard back. But then with a bit of clarity of thought now, the difference is that United team were serial winners. They were killers and they put that team to the sword. Arsenal not there yet.
One last one on the corner thing. Maybe man marking has gone out of fashion. So you've coached at a high level, so you can talk to us. I don't know, has VAR made man marking trickier because you just want to wrestle with your man, and maybe that's not a good approach? Like, I'm surprised even defences don't try things like when they're all at the back post, why not put like a 4-man wall in front of them? You know what I mean? Let's get a bit creative here.
Yeah, you're right. What, all link arms like that and just say, listen,
what are you going to do? You're going to run around us and then we'll catch up with you. But just this business of they're all at the back post, I'm a defender and I'm trying to stand open and keep an eye on these guys behind me and also watch the ball, and they're going to get a run on me no matter what. It's just physics. You're just in such a bad, vulnerable position.
But on that, in terms of getting a run on you, if you're zonal marking, what I would coach my players to do is, that's your zone. Yeah. That's where you want to have the first contact. So just before it comes in, all of you take 2 steps back, and then when the ball's delivered, take 2 steps forward, back to that starting position you were. Okay. But your momentum's there to go 1, 2, 3 and go and head it at its highest point.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of zonal markers think, well, I'm in my spot, and they don't actually move forward.
They're rooted. You can't get a running jump. It's so poorly coached, that. It's so frustrating. But in terms of how they're setting up, Arsenal, if you look at all the corners they're scoring, it's either the near post or it's the back post. There's not 6 or 7 variations here. It's either going near post or it's going back post. Yeah. It's not a lot to deal with, lads.
Sorry, it's a complete mystery to me, by the way. Like, and then they cut to the set piece guy, and I refuse to learn his name because this is just not why I like football. And he's doing his thing, and I'm looking at it going, "There's not that much going on here. Like, it's just a bunch of lads running to the front post. Just come on."
But I think though, as Gary says, like, you know, everyone knows their role, and we've spoken about it recently with Ireland, Gary, about players elite players is like quality can be taking on information and stuff too. And what you have here is a top team who are clearly all top players to get to that level, but they're also clearly good at that, at processing that. Like, sometimes isn't it funny that sometimes you think set pieces is the way you can hurt a stronger team? You always think, well, we can get at them at dead balls, but then when you have a top 2-3 team as it is, being really good at that, you're thinking, well, maybe it's logical. They can just follow. They understand it, and maybe you coach lads at a slightly lower level, Gary, who you could give them the information, but they still can't execute it because their concentration goes or something goes. Oh no, but do you know
what you do then is you make them culpable. I would be saying, listen, if they score here, make no mistake, zonal marking or nothing, and it is your fault. Do you realise that? Wow. You will be blamed. Well, I put it right at their thing, at their table.
Bruno was basically saying in his post-match, nothing I can do. Like, it's not my fault. They're too good. So that's interesting, the papering over the cracks. And it feels like a long time ago at full time, but in the first half, United were really nicely set up. Like, considering how many training sessions Amorim's had with them, it's like, God, this is far more coherent than Ten Hag after 18 months.
Yeah, no, absolutely it was. And they played the wing-back system, and Arsenal would press high, trying to cause problems. And United had the outball. They knew, every one of those players knew their outball was their wing-back, because Arsenal were relatively narrow in that press. And then they passed it out there, and it relieved the pressure. Yeah. And then suddenly, by design, what Arsenal do, even at home, even when they're winning 1-0, they drop back. But they drop back as a 10 behind the ball and say, right, we're going to start a defensive structure and maybe create an opportunity for a counter-attack. And then what that gave United was opportunities to make passes and feel comfortable with the surroundings. And I was so impressed with what he had done there. And I know it's so early on, and I know, like, United people will say, listen, we weren't really an attacking threat, but let's just have some context of where you're starting from. You need to build some, like, foundations first. So I really like him, Amorim. I know it's about, and it shouldn't be, but a lot of the time it's about perception in football, and I like him. He's charismatic. He looks like a natural fit for United in a way that Ten Hag never did. And I know that shouldn't matter so much, but you can't help but feel that, okay, this is how you're projecting yourself to us as everyone looking in. How are you projecting yourself to your players in the changing room, on the training ground, where it absolutely matters? And I think this guy is going to get United back, but it's going to be a long, bumpy road.
Yes. Let's hear from him then. This was his take in the game with MUTV.
It's like the last game. Let's not focus just on the result. Let's focus on the performance. We have to improve a lot, but we have two weeks, and we will have time to work on everything. There's a lot of games, more games than trainings in this moment, but I felt, especially in the first half, we did a good job.
So if people are wondering, by the way, it was Ugarte and Bruno as the defensive two. Bruno seems to oscillate every second game between one of the defensive two and one of the more forward two, but he was defensive with Ugarte. Mount and Garnacho ahead, Højlund leading the line, Malacia, Dallo as wing backs. Why are they struggling? And we'll circle back to Arsenal in a second. Why are they struggling creatively? Because I think they had about 5 touches in the opposition box. Arsenal, even though Arsenal weren't amazing, had like close to 40. So they didn't really create anything.
No, they didn't. And I did feel that when the team sheets come in, they would have had an opportunity with the fact that Zinchenko was playing at left back, not Calafiori, and Kivior was playing at centre half instead of Gabriel. So I thought, this could change this a little bit here. But they didn't. They didn't manage to really affect it. That's because Arsenal are very front foot defenders. That, you know, the likes of Saliba and that will go hunting into midfield, deep into midfield to stop you getting the ball out, and they couldn't really relieve the pressure. Bruno, in the base of that midfield, ultimately is in there for his technical ability. He got sacked twice, robbed of the ball in the opening couple of minutes. So it unnerved them a little bit. But I think it's just a work in process. I don't think everyone knows exactly how they're supposed to play the roles. And of course, he is working with the fact that he had very little time on the coaching ground, but also that the fitness levels are so down at United. Reminds me very much of when Klopp first went into Liverpool and wanted that rock and roll football, but the Liverpool players just weren't fit enough to do it. They were struggling. And he even said now that he makes a lot of substitutions. He's changing the team a lot because, in his words, there's a time limit on what these players can cope with, and that's obvious. So, listen, I do think it is going to be a difficult one for him, but I said this to you before, Joe, I think it's brilliant that he's took the job now and not the summer, like Pochettino did at Chelsea, because he is learning about these players, and it is invaluable in terms of what he will learn about them, that they're okay in spells, because this is a Manchester United team of moments, really, and he's got to try and create it so that they're more competitive throughout the 90 minutes.
So tell us about these cracks being papered over then for Arsenal.
Well, ultimately, it stems around the fact when Odegaard's not there, that they're very much a formulaic team. They're quite functional, and then without him as the stardust linking it all together, they can look quite basic. And I think they have done at times. And that was why I was so impressed with United in that first half, is that Odegaard was there. And he's been very good since he come back from his injury, but it felt like he wasn't. The distances between the units were perfect for Manchester United. The touch match, Matt, was like all the players were tight. They were coming up the pitch together. They were dropping together. They were very good, United. And Odegaard couldn't get any rhythm going at all. Looking at it now, I think ultimately what Arsenal were finding is that they had that blip with the suspensions at the beginning, and then they've had a lot of injuries to key players who elevate the team. Now they all seem to be coming back. So that blip that they experienced at the beginning of the season was in stark contrast with the two over the last couple of seasons where it happened at the end and they couldn't really recover from them. They can absolutely recover from these now, but they are finding it particularly difficult to get as many goals. And the defence, of course, that was only their second clean sheet in 10 games. So that's not exactly functioning the way it was before. So they are finding it difficult, but they are churning out the results.
Yeah. So big picture, we have Liverpool 7 clear now of Arsenal and Chelsea, and City within 9. Yeah. So what's going to happen?
I mean, I don't have a strong view at this stage.
Oh, it's nicely set up, isn't it?
I did like. It's interesting to hear Gary talk about Arsenal, because I know he would follow Arsenal affairs very closely, and I sort of did feel at the start of the season they could make the next step, but it's just interesting now, like that how Liverpool have adapted so quickly. It's mad. The City one is just, even last night, I know they won, but I don't know if you saw the highlights of the game. They got caught a couple of times again. They're still
vulnerable.
Still look like a team you actually would now think I'd like to play against them. If you're a clever manager, you think there's ways to hurt them. So you can signal it as a turnaround or something. It's not that. I don't think so at all. But
no, it's very strange, Gary, to be in this position where for the last, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, no matter what the table said, my gut just told me, well, City will win the league one way or another. And so now that's off the table and I have to kind of look at things in a less stable way. I guess you have to make Liverpool favourites, but 7 points becomes 5 very easily and away we go.
Yeah. No, I don't. I totally agree with you. And I said it to you last week. I felt Arsenal would hunt Liverpool down. I'm fascinated to see how Slot copes with the increased games over the Christmas period in a way that in Europe they have that winter break. I know we have one that looks like one, but it isn't. And I genuinely believe that Arsenal will have the momentum now. I do. And the one that has amazed me and has really come on the rails and on the shoulders, Chelsea. And I've not had an opportunity to really see what he's done, Maresca, but I've got a lot of friends who are Chelsea fans and they love what he's done in terms of where they are right now. The likes of Caicedo is showing he is the player that they've spent all that money for after his initial struggle. So it's interesting because when City are only 2 points behind Arsenal and Chelsea, you think, in normal circumstances, well, that's nothing. They'll hunt that down. But I agree with you both. I don't think they potentially will. I think Forest are the type of team who can hurt you on a counter-attack. That's why I thought when I saw the result, I said, that's a good win. But it's interesting. I haven't seen that game yet to see whether or not they did create chances. But do you know what, right? It's only the beginning of December, but this Premier League has been absolutely brilliant so far. It really has. So exciting.
Amazing. Before we sign off, Dan was just wondering, Jack Stevens, the Southampton captain, got sent off for a little tug on Cucurella's hair. And we were saying pre-VAR...
No, it never happened to me, Joe. Is that what you're going to ask?
Pre-VAR, he gets away with that. That's just like tricks of the trade. And I was kind of thinking, what else has VAR outlined? I presume you were standing on lads' toes and grabbing their armpit hair and all this kind of stuff.
No, I was an honourable defender. I didn't really get close enough to them. But you'd have certain things. There are still things that happen now, like little nuances where if I'm jumping up for a header, I can use my arm for leverage, but I know I'm putting it into his face instead of forwards. I know I am. And the VAR and the referees, they just don't know that. And that's why sometimes you can see some terrible tackles and you think, well, no, he eyes on the ball. And you think, no, there wasn't. And listen, there's not as much as you can get away with, but players are quick. They learn quickly to find other little avenues.
Yes. The elbow into the face is, as if just because your eyes are on the ball, you're a professional footballer, you're not fully in control of the situation.
Exactly. And like centre forwards where he's only backing into it, but he's using his arms to jump. It's funny though, every time you use your arms to jump, that elbow's going right on my nose.
It's all about the game face now as well. It's how you look in the aftermath as well. That's the thing, But the VAR thing now is, and you see it like it's knowing when to go down. Like the Evan Ferguson lack of experience with VAR has been very frustrating. Like Harry Kane, the Euro semi-final, just sat on the ground for long enough till VAR were bored. They just said, let's watch the replay. Let's see what happened there. Oh, wait a minute. And that's what you need to do. It's the new, game face. Yeah,
even Gabriel getting that penalty against West Ham stayed down for ages. So the ref going, he must have been punched in the face by the goalkeeper then. It's just codding him on.
What's Caoimhin Kelleher worth in the market?
Wow. Who knows? I know he made that mistake last night and it was just it was a mistake. You think, he obviously didn't realise that Cher was closing the back door. He's trying to buy a little bit of time, let the ball go out for a goal kick and stuff, because it was something he could easily have collected. And on the open market, we had John O'Shea in Premier Sports last night in the studio, and he might have given something a little bit away to suggest that, he may well be in London next year.
He said Newcastle or London.
Yeah. And I thought he backtracked quickly there, John.
Started naming other cities as quick as he could.
Yeah, exactly. Or he could be in Liverpool. He was going like that. I was thinking. But listen, in terms of recruitment of Chelsea and all these young top players that they've got in, and it took a while for them to settle, that goalkeeper position is certainly something they have not addressed. Yeah. And if you were to think about Caoimhin at Chelsea, I think Wow, yeah.
Liverpool wouldn't want to give him to Chelsea, would they? And then Alisson's out next season, and everyone's going, "What the hell have you done?"
They've signed because they've got their Georgian goalkeeper coming in, who's like they've had a significant outlay on him.
But it's a fluid situation. Things have changed in the last few months. Surely.
Yeah, but what you're seeing now with Premier League now, with clubs needing to balance their books a bit more, you're now seeing more moves between the top clubs. It didn't used to happen. Now it does happen.
So give us a number, Gary. What would Chelsea have to pay Liverpool? Because me and Dan have taken a stab at this, and I've received some criticism.
Not from me.
For my valuation.
All right, go on then. What was it? What was yours?
No, I got carried away. I'd rather not say.
Oh, okay, go on then. I won't. It won't influence my figure. Go on.
Look, I thought his age, you get 15 years out of him. You do the maths on that. I could see 65, 70, 75, 80.
Well, listen, that will be determined by the length of his contract and things like that. But that if that happened, that wouldn't surprise me. We've seen people like Kepa go for that type of money.
That's what I was thinking.
Nowhere near it. And listen, that's often how that market works, Joe. It might be a bit changed with financial fair play, but as soon as Maguire goes for 80, as soon as Van Dijk goes for big money to Liverpool, then the next fee for someone from Leicester at centre half to Man United was the same fee, and you're thinking that doesn't add up. So it kind of like follows one from the other.
Am I going to have to drag a number out of you?
Oh yeah, listen, 50 million straight
50.
away. Yeah,
50. Yeah. Okay, 50 is very respectable.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other business you care to mention?
Big game between Wolves and West Ham now. Two of my former clubs next up in terms of the pressure both managers are under. We did Ruud van Nistelrooy's first game, Leicester, against West Ham on Tuesday night, and it looked an impressive result. But let me tell you, he's got some work there. They conceded 31 shots in that game.
Right.
Leicester, 31 shots. So that tells you they're going to have some real problems against better teams. But Lopetegui under real pressure. And this throwaway comment that West Ham fans should be careful what they wish for. They did not wish for Lopetegui. They may well have wished for Moyes to go, but they did not wish for him. So that's a nonsense to say that West Ham fans are now getting what they deserve as such, because it's been a mess at West Ham in terms of how they started already, and massive pressure on both managers now come the weekend.
Yeah, okay. Gary, thanks so much. That was great.
Thanks, lads.